Hi, I'm Binary Pearl, and you might remember me from such videos as Saki Needs a Band-Aid, and Cerno got stuck in the fridge too. But today, I want to talk about what it takes to make an animation. I'm an amateur animator, and this is an animation I made recently that I'm very happy with. It uses a combination of Blender for making the animations, Miku Miku dance models, DaVinci Resolve for putting it all together with the video and sound effects. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the process of starting at the beginning all the way through the end. So this is the initial idea that I had in my head. I've been in the Toho project for several years now, and then I watched an anime on Crunchyroll called I've Been Killing Slimes for 300 Years and Maxed Out My Level, and realized that that anime is very heavily Toho influenced. And so what I'm going to do is take Marisa from Toho Project and Azusa from I've Been Killing Slimes and put them into the same world like they had seen each other for the first time. So what I have here is they're just casually walking towards each other, and they start to notice some things going on. They realize there's some kind of connection. They don't know what. Everything's slowing down. They're looking at each other, trying to figure it out. And then they just get this sudden urge to attack each other, kind of like two magnets that are of like a same pole, like two positive magnets, and they just repel each other. So that's what was going through my mind in that. So when we look at how they're walking, you notice their eyes are not blinking yet. That's fine. That is detail that we can put in afterwards. The goal here was just to get their walk cycle down, get the initial idea, and then if you look like the background, it's black, right, or gray, and the floor, there's nothing else going on. This is what's in my mind. I don't have the actual setting yet of where it's going to be, who else is going to be in the characters, what else is going on. In this next clip, there's a couple things we'll look at. One is the eye blinking. This is really important because if you don't have it, it looks like the characters are staring infinitely, and that's very awkward to look at. So I choose both the how often they blink and the duration of each blink randomly. That way it looks as natural as possible. Also in this scene, I started playing with different camera angles. This one uses way more extreme camera angles than what I end up going with. It's a cool shot of Marisa. But it was too jagged for what I'm looking for, so I wanted something smoother. A lot of the camera angles that I do is heavily influenced by the game Final Fantasy VII. The way they go into the battle scenes is really, really cool, and they do a lot with camera angles to be able to show kind of like the world around. So that's a lot of the influence for some of the stuff I've been doing. So I'll just let this finish for just a little bit more here, just to get a nice shot here. We can pause it and move. I think it's like this scene right here. Oh yeah, I would not want to mess with her. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stop this one and then go to this one with the camera angles. Go a little bit here. This is very close to what I ended up going with camera angle wise. We'll see it in just a second. It's more smoother, it's closer. Think of it almost as kind of like an individual like fairy just flying around, being able to watch what she wants without interfering with the scene. Now I want to talk a little bit about the software that I use to create these animations. I'm using Blender, which is 3D animation software that is free. It's very cool and very powerful. So what we're looking at here is the 3D viewport. So this is our scene. In this scene, we have our two Toho characters. Two characters. A plane, which is a temporary floor, a light source, and a camera. The models here are Miku Miku Dance models. If you're not familiar with Miku Miku Dance, it's 3D animation software. It's much more limited than Blender, but it's a little bit easier to work with than what it does. And what's nice is that there are people that have made these models, and we can import them into Blender using MMD Tools, I believe it's called. And making models that are able to move like this is it's very complicated. It's a very specialized skill. So it's nice to be able to download these models and use them. There are a couple downsides. The main downside is that the hair in their clothes will not move unless I specifically animate them. Compare that if I was able to make these models in Blender natively, their hair and clothes could interact with the physics engine and look much more realistic. If you're familiar with -T and his animations, especially with his later ones, those models look really, really good. And they're going to look much better than what we can do here. But the skill that you need to develop those is very, very high. So being able to get these models that look really decently good and be able to use them saves a lot of time. So I'm really appreciative of the models that people have created. Now I want to talk a little bit about frames. Frames are just individual pictures. I use PNG files, but think if you're familiar with JPEG or bitmap, it's the same concept. And the video that we create is a sequence of frames just strung together, and it creates the illusion of motion. So let's just go to frame 1, and we'll go to the camera so you can see this is the picture that we want to generate. So we'll press F12, and this will render the actual scene. And this will take into account all the effects that we have, including light bounces, to create the shadows as accurately as possible. And so that's what's going on here. Now I'm going to press escape, go back, and if you notice I have this frame rate here at 30 frames per second. The actual number that you choose here, you want to choose it at the very beginning of the video so you know what you're going with. The actual value that you choose is a hotly debated topic, and there's really no one right or wrong answer. It just depends upon your situation. 24 frames per second, I believe, is what movies, even to this day, are still shot in. That's about the lowest you can go that the human eyes and mind will still perceive as being smooth. I bump it up to 30 for easier math. And so let's take, for example, the camera. And so I'm going to go outside of the view here. What these yellow diamonds are keyframes. There's a keyframe here, and that says that's where I'm 1. Now, if I go to frame 150, I set another keyframe. So what's happening, that Blender is it will now calculate at position 1, I want to be here. At position 150, I want to be here. So now that we can move, Blender will do that calculation, and then that's how we get the camera to move. And so if I go from frame 150 to 300, it moves there. 300 to 450, it moves there. And now I have no more keyframes, so now it's just going to stay there. And the keyframe concept is not related to just camera, it's also the object as well. So let's take a look at one of the bones. The bones are part of the structure that allow us to move one of these characters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into pose mode, and I'm going to go into the neck bone here. And if you notice, we have these diamonds here as well, and these are keyframes just like with the camera. So what I have here is this keyframe. It's probably actually 120, and then this keyframe over here, 540 something, doesn't matter what number, is all the way over here. So this is a spot that Azusa is going to start turning her head. So if we move along the time frame, you'll notice that she's going to start turning her head, and it's very slow because there's a large gap in time between this keyframe and the other keyframe. I should say the start keyframe and the end keyframe. And so that's how we turn our head. Now, if I wanted a really quick turn, I would have the keyframes much closer together. And that's how you get like quick movements versus slower movements. Now let's talk about the setting. I got the core animation working close enough for now. So I had to try to decide, where do I want this scene to take place? And I thought, okay, Japanese characters, Japan's heavily associated with trains, train station would be perfect. But I've never been to Japan, so I don't know what Japanese train stations look like. But I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and they have the metro. And since I ride that fairly often, I am familiar with those train stations. So I decided to make a station based off of one of those. This isn't based off a specific station, but kind of this general architecture here. What they call is this brutalist architecture, these dome-like concrete things, and these red tiles. So this is the Blender scene I used to create the final render. And I'll just zoom out here so we can see what it looks like. I made this way bigger than what it needed to be, but this is essentially a flattened cube that I use for the floor. And then I have these dome-like things here. And then if we zoom in, you can see everything that's going on. I'll press dot. Nope, I don't have anybody selected to zoom into her. And so what I'm going to do here is show you how I created this, or at least the basic part of this dome. So if I do Shift A, Mesh, and then add a cylinder, and grab, and then let's move it over here a little bit, and then rotate, I think Y 90, yeah, and we'll scale it down a little bit. So that's what it is. It's just a cylinder. And then so what I'm going to do is I am going to cut away some of these faces. And there's other tutorials if you get into Blender on how to do all this stuff. This isn't a tutorial on how to do that. This is just kind of showing you what's going on here. And then what we'll do, then we'll delete these faces. And then I'm just going to extrude it a little bit. And then I'll go to Object, Shade Smooth. And now let's see, rotate it Z90. You can see it's a miniature version of kind of what's up there. So I'll just grab this over here, scale it, make it about the same size. This will just be an approximation. This is just to show you that that is ultimately roughly how we created these dome structures. And then we can duplicate it, actually on the y-axis. And that's roughly how I created this dome-like feature. So once you know what to do, those are somewhat easy to do. It did get much more trickier, a little more advanced in getting these the actual domes. The actual textures, I'm not going to go too much into it. So what I mean by the textures, like these red tiles, for example. So I'm just going to click on that, and then I'll go into shading. And then this is ultimately, this may look a little intimidating at first, but once once you know how to do it, it makes more sense. This is how you apply the texture. And essentially what you do is you need to download a texture, I guess texture pack we'll call it. And I use this site called ambientcg.com. This is a really cool site that for getting textures. So let's just say you like this wood one here, and then they offered either in JPEG or PNG in different sizes. And then I think I probably went with 4K. I may not need to go that big, but yeah, the larger you get, the more resolution, but the bigger it'll be in memory and stuff like that. Either way, you'll get that, and then it will have different files here: a color, roughness, a normal, a displacement, possibly metalness. And essentially what you'll do is you'll load those files here and then connect them in to this Pencil BSDF node here. And this is kind of what combines everything and then sends it to the output. So essentially what this does is, this is a really, really quick overview on how this applies. And this is what gives it its depth and color. And then you can scale the size and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of cool things you can do once you have the texture applied. Now I want to talk about some of the finishing touches on this scene. First thing I want to talk about here is the train station signs. You notice the name of this station is Human Village, and it's going towards the Hakare Shrine. And if we scroll around to the other side, the Human Village station, but towards Shining Needle Castle. So what I did, the reason I created it this way is I found this fan-made map of Gensokyo from this Reddit forum. And so what I did is I created an imaginary train station line from Hakare Shrine to the Shining Needle Castle, and decided the Human Village would be the station that this is happening at. So that's what I did with the train station design, to try to make it fit within Gensokyo if they had train stations. So now if I go back, let's see what else. The warning lights that are coming on here. When a train station is coming into a metro station, these will go on and off, similar to this. I found actually each station actually does it slightly different in terms of the duration of the lights. But so I just chose something that looked reasonably good. And so typically, when you have trains coming from different directions, they're not going to come at the exact same time. But in this animation, I had them at the exact same time, partly because it's easier, and partly because if I would extend this animation and have the characters actually fight, part of the scene would be trains coming in, and I won't spoil it any further than that. So, what's happening now, let's talk about the characters and what they're doing here. So what I wanted to do is create kind of like a playground fight scene. So Cerno comes in here, flapping her arms because she's Cerno. And then one of the things she does here, I'll play this here, and she's going to do this little animation and make a little speech. What she's saying is, now I want a good clean fight. Let's get it on. Which is from Celebrity Deathmatch, which was a claymation show on MTV in the 90s, I believe. And that's what the referee would say right before a match started. So that's what that is a reference to. And then what I wanted to do with the characters here is have this playground like fight scene. Like, so what happened is you know, they make a big stomp, they make a scene. So now some of the characters are coming in to watch what's going on. The character choices were partly deliberate, part because of what I had a model of. Cerno and Dayase are both referenced. I'm not going to get the characters right in I've Been Killing Slimes anime, but they're two of the main characters. Alice kind of having an interest in Marisa, looking at her, and Beelzebub kind of looking at Azusa. The one other thing to note in these what's going on, if you watch really carefully, the other characters in the background, they're moving. I find that's really important. You don't want to have them just 100% still, because even if, like Alice, when she's standing there, she's still moving a little bit. You can't really tell too much. But, you know, even when people are just going to be standing there, they're going to be moving slightly. So I wanted to put that in to help create that part of the realism. Now for the last part, I want to talk about sound effects in an animation. What we're looking at here is DaVinci Resolve, which is video editing software that we use to put everything together. So here in this blue is the rendered animation that we have from Blender, and all these green are sound effects that I used. So the first one we'll look at is this train raw one. What this is from, I grabbed it from a YouTube video, and it's the sound of a metro train leaving somewhere else in the station. If you're ever in a DC metro station, you'll hear the sound all the time, so I wanted to add it for the realism there. The next one we'll look at is this low rumble. This I created on an analog synthesizer called the Korg Monologue. And what this is doing, it's generating tension, so if we listen now, it'll get more intense. And that ends when they're about ready to fight. The next we'll listen to is this foot stomp. This was my initial attempt at it, also made on the Korg Monologue. But that was way too light. It didn't have enough, it didn't have any bass in it. So then I also created this other one here, which does have bass, and then added these two together, which generates this. So that's what I did for the foot stomp. And then now we'll look at the footstep sound effects. So and I'll scroll down so you can see a little bit better what's going on. So I got these online somewhere. I didn't generate these on my own, but they play as soon as their foot hits the floor. So that is that sound effect. Looks like next is this end metal rift. This I also created on the Korg Monologue. It's kind of guitars. It's not actually based on any like Toho music or I've Been Killing Slimes music. It was just something I came up with, and I was like, yeah, let's go with this. It's a nice short phrase. My piano teacher helped me with the little frill at the end to get the right notes to make it sound musical. And then the last sound effect we have is the intro text, which came from my brother-in-law. He is a voice actor and donated this to me, so I'm really appreciative of that.
What if Kirisame Marisa from Toho Project and Aizawa Asuza from I Have Been Killing Slimes were to cross paths for the very first time?
So now, when we put it all together, we'll just unmute it. This is what you get.
What if Kirisame Marisa from Toho Project and Aizawa Asuza from I Have Been Killing Slimes were to cross paths for the very first time?
And that's it. Hope you found this insightful. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.